No role plays, no conference calls, no BS. Chris and Lorenzo share 4 decades of combined experience to help you become a more effective leader. This is Hacking Your Leadership.
Welcome to Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lorenzo.
And welcome to this week's Thoughtful Thursday. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube at Hacking Your Leadership and leave us a review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. On this Thoughtful Thursday, I want to talk about something that I think it can be a little bit of a touchy subject here, but I think it's something that needs to be addressed. I was having a conversation with someone who I had been in a working relationship with for several years. We've never seen each other outside of work. We've never called or texted each other outside of work. It's just purely been while we're working together. But it's an incredibly friendly, incredibly cordial relationship. We talk about our personal lives together. We talk about, hopes and dreams. We have conversations about this. We talk about the work. We get good work done together. I was having a conversation with them, and it was a kind of personal conversation. It was not related to the business. And at a certain point in the conversation, they said something that kind of transitioned it to a business conversation. And there was no problem with that. We were at work and there to get work done. And so we transitioned to a business conversation and moved through it. And as I left the conversation, I thought back, I kind of replayed the conversation back in my head. And I thought, that's interesting. The way with which they transitioned it to be a talk about business almost led me to believe that they wanted to talk about business earlier in the conversation than they did. And we were talking about personal stuff, and they almost they didn't want to cut me off, or they didn't want to be rude. But the reason they were there was to have a business conversation. And then it got me thinking about the entire relationship as a whole. And I thought, well, wait a minute. We don't text each other. I don't send them memes when I'm, not working. We don't have conversations that are outside of the environment of work. Is this person a friend, or are they a colleague? Are they a coworker? And if I'm being honest with myself, they're a coworker who we just happen to get along at work. And where I think this needs to be talked about is that I think there are a lot of people out there who they get into this trap thinking that the relationship, that the care, the emotional commitment to a person extends into the same level with which you extend that kind of thing to your close friends and your family members, because we talk about how we want to bring our personal lives to work, and your boss should care about you as a person, not just as an employee. All of that is true, but that doesn't mean that they see you in the same lens that they see their best friends and their family members, nor should it mean you should see them through those lenses also. I think this is it's again, touchy subject, but something I think we need to talk about, because I think a lot of people make the wrong decisions based on an assumption that a relationship is something that it is not.
Yeah, I think it's a great conversation to have, and I immediately think of when I hear people talk about work teams as family. And I hear look, we're like a family,
right?
And I know where that's coming from, and it sounds so good, and I appreciate why they're saying it. But I also find myself from time to time saying, well, let's talk a little bit about that, because I appreciate you saying that, because what I hear is that you work with people that you trust, that you have good relationships with, that you're transparent with, that challenge you, that help you, that mentor you, to shape you. And I'm like, but that's what we want to talk about. That's a great work environment, because family to me is very different.
Yep.
Right? Family to me is those that I surround myself with, all the time. Family to me are those that spend time with my children. Family to me, like sometimes we get to choose them, sometimes we don't, right?
Right.
Sometimes we have our favorite family members, sometimes we don't have that's family. But when it comes to work, we have to be conscious about that, because this is work, right? Here's the example. If my sister calls me and says she did something ridiculously stupid, which she's never done in life, wink, wink, and says, I need $1,000, and I say, okay, how do you want me to send it to you?
Right.
If I'm at work and somebody that I get along with really well says, hey, I did something stupid last night, I need $1,000. And I was like, sounds like you need to work some extra hours. That's,
right,
that's what I hear, right? It's not as easy. I'm not going to just hand over the cash, right? So as much as we may say that we're like a family here, there are differences in that space. And I think it's important to consider that, because to what you're saying, I think about, of all the people that I've worked with, the companies I've worked with, the years of relationships and whatnot, like there are a handful of people that I probably stay in contact with very regularly that I no longer work with. There's a lot of people that I have worked with for a long time that have moved on, or I've moved on, and we don't talk anymore. And I would have said, like, I felt really close to them. I thought we got along great. We did some great work together, but we just don't have that connection.
Sure.
And so I think it's important as leaders that we are comfortable in those spaces, that we do want to have a welcoming, positive, great environment where people trust each other and everything. But we are also here to do work. And we have to remember that we have a responsibility to get work done.
Right. Yeah. So you have 25 plus years of leadership experience in retail. I'm guessing the number of people who you no longer work with, but who you still have periodic conversations with over text or voice or whatever, is probably in the dozens, where the number of people who you no longer work with, who you have not said one word to since, is in the thousands. So it is a fraction of a percent of people over a long period of time that kind of meet this standard. And maybe those people, you would say, how can I send you the money if they send it, like if it met that level. But still, a sister or a family member or a loved one is still even above that. That's still another level. So you're right. I think when companies say this, that we're like a family, I think they're coming from a good place. I don't think they mean any harm by it. But you're right. We do treat our family members much differently than we treat our coworkers. And so what I want to ask you, Lorenzo, is have you ever had to kind of reset the expectations of a relationship with an employee when you felt like maybe that the two of you had different impressions about what the relationship was, and you had to make sure that you did it with a certain level of finesse because you wanted the relationship to maintain, but you wanted to both be on the same page as far as what the expectations were of that relationship. So I want to ask you that, but first I want to give it a word from one of our sponsors. All right, Lorenzo, have you ever had to tell an employee, stop sending me weird links at 2:00 in the morning? I'm your boss. No. Have you ever had to kind of level set with a person about what the relationship was because it was a work or business relationship?
Yeah, it has happened from time to time. It's rare because, again, I think most people understand the concept. I think where I had to have a conversation with someone was because there was an element of like the time in their life where I could really relate to what was going on because of my own life, because of a time when I was in a similar type of a situation. I understood, I could have a conversation with them that I think was very meaningful and helpful in saying, like, you're not alone. I've been there too. Let me give you some insight into like my personal life that I don't share, that people don't really know, but like how that made me feel, how I worked through it, the things that I had to do. So like I very much opened up to just help somebody that was going through something similar, and they really appreciated that. And I think it was very, very helpful. And then what happened over time was then situation got better, but then another situation came up, and then it was kind of like, hey, can I talk to you? Like showing up on a day off to say, can I talk to you? Like, yeah, like what's going on? And it was kind of like, here's my life now, here's my situation, here's the types of things where I had to say like, look, I want you to know that I will help you get whatever support that you need. And,
right.
In this role as the leader, like there are certain things that really I can't step over when it comes to personal life and decisions and things that you're going to do. I can always, and I'm willing to share some of my own personal testimony if that's going to be helpful to you, but I can't solve these problems. This is nothing that's work related. If you need time away or something like that, please use a resource to do that type of thing. But like, I'm not the one to help you work through this, and we have other people and resources that can do that. And so it was a little bit of a tough conversation, only because if you care about people, you really want to help them. And could I have added some value? Probably. But what I recognized was like, this is the path that it was going down, was that I think that this person did not have many people in their life that kind of fulfilled this role of kind of a confidant / a parent / a mentor. But I had to be conscious of that and say like, these things, I want to help, but at the same time, Like this is not the role. And we had a conversation, and they appreciated, they respected it, they understood. It's like, you know what, like I appreciate that, I really really do. I understand, that makes sense. And we were able to get them with some other resources that were better for the situation. So it happens. It's pretty rare. I think it happens more often when you have really good relationship with somebody, and then for whatever the reason, like they stop coming to work, they have low performance, they become disengaged, and then it's kind of like, then people feel a certain way of like, oh, I thought we were all good, and it was like we were all good, and we can be all good, but we also have a job to do here, and part of my job is making sure that you're doing your job, right? So if we want to continue this level of relationship and banter at work, then we both have to show up and do the jobs that we're being paid to do.
Right, for sure. There's this the employees that I think it's easiest to do this with are employees who are in general good at what they do and high performing, but periodically need some coaching and counseling on little things, because at least it sets the stage for this relationship has this element is there where it's a work environment. Where it becomes most difficult is when, like you said, an employee is like star performer, great at everything. There's really no need to have conversations about what they need to do better at when it comes to the business, because they just are that they just do everything really well, and they seem to kind of have, the world is their oyster. And then something drastic changes, on a dime, and you have to start kind of laying that in. That can be really difficult for leaders to kind of figure out how to lay the groundwork for that, when the relationship at that point might be several years long and there's been no need to have that kind of conversation. But I'll tell you, the sooner it is done, the better. The conversation, it can't wait until you've felt these kind of interesting and weird feelings about like what they're overstepping, they're crossing the line multiple times. You can't let that go for months and months at a time. You have to address it on the first or second time. The first one, maybe let it go again. Maybe it's an anomaly. But on the second time, when it's clear this is where they think the relationship is going, you got to address it right away. The fallout from allowing it to continue down that path will be much worse than if you just, level set and then follow up with them and make sure they got the resources that they need. Make sure you offer, your support in the context of what your role is and what you can do. But yeah, it's an interesting conversation, because I think a lot of leaders kind of find themselves stuck in a pitfall here, where they turn the corner. It's like, the old joke, oh no, I'm in the friend zone. It's like a lot of leaders find themselves in the friend zone, and then they find it more difficult to hold their people accountable.
Absolutely. And with that, it brings us to the end of this episode. This is Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Lorenzo.
And I'm Chris.
And have a great day.